Hey guys, I wanted to just talk to you a second about decimals and fractions. On page 57 in your book today, we looked at how to express a fraction, or sorry, a decimal in word form and fraction form. And so the way you write a decimal is the way you read it correctly. So, for example, the 25 hundredths. Okay, so you would write 25 over 100, and then you would simplify it. You could write it out in words. And we know that 25 and 100 are both divisible by 25. You could have also divided by 5 and kept dividing. And so 25 divided by 25 gives you 1. 100 divided by 25 gives you 4. So in simplest form, 25 hundredths simplifies to 1/4. Okay, now the number 3. This is the instruments that the students play in the school orchestra, and so this is the percussion, and so this one is 15 hundredths, and we know that 15 and 100 are both divisible by 5. And so 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. And so 3/20ths would be the simplest form of that one. Next, the strings. You would have 31 hundredths. And that would be 31 over 100. And 31 is prime, and so that is in its simplest form. Okay, now moving to the next page. On page 58, we looked at that a little bit in class. And on page 58, we talked about, and these are just more examples of where you are changing your decimal to a fraction. And so you write it exactly the way you read it. 6/10 equals 6 over 10. And then you can simplify, and you can see that they divided 6 by 2 and got 3, and they divided 5 by 2, or they divided, 10 by 2 and got 5. And so the 6/10 would simplify to 3/5. Same thing here. They did the 45 hundredths and simplified that. This one, you had 375 thousandths, and they simplified that to, they simplified it to 3/8. Okay. The part that I really wanted to focus on was this part right here, where you are taking 9/12 and you want to express that as a decimal. And there are two different ways. This first way, we know that there's a relationship between 12. Well, 9/12 you can simplify to 3/4, and that's showing you how they did that. And then we know that there's a relationship between 4 and 100. And so 4 times 25 gives you 100, and 3 times 25 gives you 75. And if you have 75 hundredths, that's exactly how you write it as a decimal. Now let's say that, you aren't aware that you can simplify that, and you just decide, okay, well, I'm just going to divide it. And then you could divide 12 into 9, and you'd have to annex some zeros, and you would get 75 hundredths. I want to do a couple of these at the bottom for you, like E, where you have 3/5. I'm going to do it over to the side. And so you have 3/5. And we want to write that, we want to divide it so we can write it as a decimal. And so I talked about in class how if you can imagine a tree falling over,